All right, it's 5:30. I'll call the committee meeting to order. So I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for serving on the naming committee. We're going to start with introduction. So we'll actually start down here with Mrs. Pels.
Hello, my name is Emily Pels, and I'm the principal at Blake Memorial High School.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Fuentes, and I'm the English as a second language teacher at Todd School.
I'm Kyle Larson. I'm the board president here to get the committee meeting started.
I'm John Wong. I'm board, School District of Beloit School Board board clerk.
Brandy Harford, principal at Merrill Elementary School.
Booker Street.
Anna Maria Delgado, current School District of Beloit board member.
All right, thank you very much. So the charge of the committee is to determine whether or not to name the Beloit Memorial High School natatorium after Richard Vogel, Dick Vogel, who has been a long time swim coach as well as a teacher at the high school, and he retired in the spring. And Coach Brian Michaels requested that the board examine whether or not, he suggested that the natatorium be named after Coach Vogel. And so the charge of the committee is to determine whether or not that is something that we would like to do, as well as a possible name. So that like suggestions were the Richard Vogel Aquatic Center or the Richard Vogel Natatorium. And then the committee will discuss that, decide what they'd like to do, and then make a recommendation to the Board of Education. So this could be a short standing committee, or it could take a couple of meetings up to what you as a committee determine the steps to be and the process that you would like to take. So the relationship with the board, so this is like an ad hoc committee, so you will do the committee work, study of the issue, and then make a recommendation to the full board once the committee has made a decision. And we already talked about the suggested names. So that brings us to the election of a committee chair. So the committee chair would take over running the meeting, as well as work with Michelle Shope, the board secretary, to plan any further meetings that may be required, as well as help, if anything that you would need would go through the board secretary. Is there, are there any nominations for a committee chair? Okay. Are there any other nominations? All right. So Mr. Lupke will be the chair by a vote of affirmation. Is there no R? Do you accept? Yeah. Good.
I anticipate this being a very short process, so based on that premise, I accept.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. So from here, I will turn it over to the chair. Thank you again for everyone's time. I'd say a vote of affirmation.
I think, and help me out with the Michelle and others as far as rules. I don't want to bypass anything, but are there other nominations? Have other names been brought forth?
For the natatorium?
Yes.
No.
Is there any reason, Kyle or anybody else, that we have to prolong this? Or could we have discussion and then vote on this tonight? Or
Absolutely.
my only suggestion is, when you mentioned it before, was that we now refer to it as the Barkin Arena, and usually it would be the Wong this or the McCurran this. I don't know if the first, somebody could say Dick Vogel, but I think it would sound better as the Vogel Natatorium. It's just from where I come from, but for what it's worth. What discussion do we have as far as Mr. Vogel, Dick Vogel? Any comments or input from anybody?
My only question is, what's the difference between an aquatic center and a natatorium? I mean, what?
Good question. I think they're interchangeable. I think it's probably, Emily, would you have an answer? I think this natatorium. We'll have our reference librarian look at.
Okay, turn on the mic. Okay. So a natatorium is a building containing a swimming pool. I don't know what the technical difference between that and an aquatic center is, but I would make an assumption that an aquatic center could potentially include other water activities. Like I'm thinking of the aquatic centers I've seen in Whitewater or through the YMCA when they have wading pools or slides or whatever, lap pools or whatever they have. So to me, that might be a difference.
I know back in the 70s when I needed a summer job, when I was teaching, and my summer job was manager of the Beloit Natatorium. And I think that it's still emboldened down there, that project that was built in the 1930s. Anybody else have any input as far as the difference? John?
When I look up the aquatic centers online here, it refers to everything from, like, the first thing that pops up, it says, the aquatic center is recognized as the model for safe boating and is boat safety center and this is in California, and several of them. I mean, you look at them and they have, slides and lap pools, and there's boats involved in all of that as well. So, and I did have another question, and you had mentioned that the naming of it, because isn't it called the Bernie Barkin Arena? I mean, isn't that on the outside? Or is it just say Barkin Arena?
I technically don't know. I'd have to go back and look. Sorry. I should know that.
I think it just says the Barkin Arena. I think it just says the Barkin Arena.
See if there's some pictures. I'm not seeing any pictures online. It's all of the center of the.
It probably doesn't really matter. It'd be named after Dick Vogel if we go that way, but people would say, you go into the Vogel Center, the Vogel this or that. It's like, I think of Northwestern, the Dyke Center, this or that, and they don't usually bring the person's first name in it. It's completely optional and allowed however people want to do it. So I guess it doesn't really matter. It would be the vote would be be named after Dick or Richard Vogel. But most kids, when they're talking about going in, are you going to go to the Richard Vogel pool? You going to Vogel's pool? That's what I think. It just happens naturally over time.
It's referred to on a lot of hits on Facebook or on the internet as just the Barkin Arena.
Mm-hmm.
How many years?
I personally like to call it like the full name, Richard Vogel Natatorium. I don't know, I think it just sounds more of a personal, than just Vogel, the Vogel Natatorium. But that's just my opinion.
It's definitely a trend we've gone towards because Frusen is it's Fran Frusen Intermediate, it's not Frusen Intermediate. This is the Barbara Hickman boardroom. So, keeping in that frame, then it would make sense to use
Right.
Dick's first name.
No, I think as Ms. Delgado mentioned that the formality is nice, but when kids, what school do you go? I go to Fruzen, you know, so again, we do the formality, but in use, it's just usually it's Fruzen or this or that. We don't, Merrill School, Mr. Merrill was around in the 100 years ago, but we don't ever mention his first name. It's Merrill School, and unfortunately, most people don't know who Mr. Merrill is. Many of the schools are named after industrialists in Beloit or former superintendents or principals. Booker, you had a question. Go ahead.
No, I just wonder, how many years did Mr. Vogel actually teach and coach? 34.
34.
34? Maybe I should, oh, I can see that right here, okay.
Other questions or comments, input for the common good? Would everybody feel comfortable in taking a vote on this tonight?
Sure.
Is there a motion?
I move that we vote tonight on the naming of the Beloit Memorial Natatorium, Richard Vogel, or whatever name we come up with. Let me say that.
Let's
If
stick,
that's in order.
let's stick with Richard Vogel and keep it formal like that then, and people can do whatever they want with it.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
I need a clarification.
Yes,
Is it the Richard Bowl Natatorium?
yes, that was his motion. Discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
We have 8 affirmative, 0 negative. So the committee unanimously proposes Richard Vogel for the naming of the Beloit Memorial High School Natatorium. Thank you very much. Are there other questions, other input for the committee? We just set a world record, right, Kyle? For we got a good team here. I like this.
We just need to find out if he's like a junior or a third or whatever, to make sure that.
Now, the process for this is that it goes to the full board, and then after that is I'm assuming there's a ceremony, and then there's going to be, or there probably have to be the lettering and all of that to be done.
That
I
is
have a
correct.
question.
Go ahead.
So does Mr. Vogel, does he have to accept us proposing this, or has it already been accepted by him?
I don't know if he knows it or not.
I'm sure he's heard of it. I think it'd be a nice formality for the board to extend it and get his permission for that. And I think before the board makes the final vote, John or Kyle, you would extend that to him and get his permission.
Yes. I did have a comment, and it's kind of a jokingly comment, but I was talking to my son after this, just before I came to the meeting, and both my sons right now are on the swim team, and they have been for the past few years. But my oldest son said, he said, don't say this, but I said, I'm going to anyways. He said, I always thought that in order for a building to be named after somebody, they had to be dead. I said, no, I don't think that's the case, because we have a few buildings and rooms around here that definitely are.
Tell Fran
So,
that.
but yeah, I think that definitely getting his approval.
Fran jokes about that often. Any other questions? And thank you, committee members. Thank you. That concludes our meeting.
Motion for adjournment?
Motion? And a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you again, everybody.